What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 99, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name's Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-hosts, Roffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I still don't know that Renathal is a strong card, but the fact that people keep putting them in their decks means that I get to have a lot more fun. Like, I feel like everybody's coming down to my level in deck building now, and just like forced to run at least 10 bad cards, and games are slower. I can do more dumb stuff, and I'm having a great time. I hope it lasts, and I doubt it will, but I'm enjoying it now.
Yeah, Ruffle's got that home field advantage, he's coming on his level. But no, it's been interesting. It's kind of weird. We Renathal dropping at the same time as the reveal season. It kind of feels like so much has already happened that it's like, oh, it has only been a few days, basically. Like, it's only been like less than a week. We've kind of had these 40 card decks, so it's been interesting. It feels a little longer than that already. But we've still got a really long time until the expansion. So, Roffle, let's hope it lasts for the next month or so then for you.
Yeah, I mean, before we hop into the expansion, let's talk a little bit about Renathal, I guess, because it is, I think, shaking up the meta, right? Like Roffle said, I don't think it's very good, but it's really fun, and maybe we can discuss that, but it's really fun at the very least, right? Especially since a lot of people are jamming it, messing around with stuff. I don't know. I personally played some extra large free shaman to climb at the end of last month, and it did really, really well. Surprisingly
large.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, extra large. I like that being the naming device. Yeah.
Right, because the XL is Roman numerals for 40, so it fits perfectly.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
shit. I didn't even mean
you come
that.
up with that?
I meant that as
Is that
extra
right
large,
now?
but
No, that was a Twitter take, but it's a
God.
brilliant one.
true. I'm gonna start using that like on purpose now. But you guys, how's your Renathal experience been?
It's been hit or miss. Certain decks, it definitely works. One of those examples is what we talked about last week with like the Dark Glare-less Dark Glare Warlock, which, first of all, it's kind of silly that like 40 cards, you still don't run Dark Glare in that deck. but I use that for climbing. I played it just a little bit to get some footage for YouTube. I've got like an 85% win rate with the deck through like a large sample of games. It is very strong. That's one where, like, because you are reducing your health and because you are running Molten Giants, like, the buffer really does make a difference. And, like, even gives you a very good chance into Rogue. And, like, honestly, I just felt like I was winning everything. So, I don't know. And some of that was because people were building their decks greedier, and I was kind of taking advantage of that. But I think for the most part, I think people are playing Renathal because of the novelty, not because, like, fully aware that it's making their deck worse in most cases. Like, I still don't think that most Reno decks want Renathal. The exceptions may be those that are running Molten Giant because, like, getting that down faster or with a bigger buffer is helpful. But I don't care. Like, it's fun. I'm gonna keep doing it. I hope my opponents will keep doing it as well.
Yeah, the Dark Glare, sorry, the Dark Glare-less Dark Glare deck. That's the one that I obviously gravitated to because I thought it was the most competitive. It's usually what I'm going to be doing. I played a ton of that, and is it worth it? I'm not entirely sure. It feels like it gets a lot of the Reno deck benefits, where its matchup spread becomes very flat, right? Like, there are very few matchups where you feel like you can't win. Just because you do have access to now a lot more tech, you have so much health to like the aggro matchups, like Rogue, like Pirate Rogue farms normal Dark Glare, right? Like, that's not a good matchup. But with the 40 health, that feels super winnable. Like, that feels good. It's so tough for them to be able to, play around Molten Giant in that matchup, and so you are much more easily able to develop it. So, I've seen a ton of Renathal. Like, it's ridiculous. I know that in Standard, the sort of like, it looks like it might be worth it in a few decks. I think that Wild is going to be the same case. But again, people are just playing it because they love it. It's got... I was looking at the stats for like, okay, just how many people are playing Prince Renathal? It's over half of the decks in Wild right now at Legend are including Renathal.
I've had multiple people queue into me running Renathal in Questline Hunter, and I was hard pressed to find a worse home for Prince Renathal than Questline Hunter, because we've talked about like this for months now, that like Questline Hunter is a deck that struggles to have 30 playable cards in it, and
Yeah.
then on top of that, you're adding a minion and 10 more cards. It's like that. How's that helping you? But you know, if people just want to have fun with the new card, and so they're just shoving it everywhere.
Yeah. PSA. I think I might have you beat for the worst home. I've seen Oaken Summons Druids running Renathols. Yeah.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
Of course, they didn't hit the
I mean-
Renathal off the Oaken Summons, but you know.
But Meowth, you don't
Sounds
need
like
the
a skill
Vargoth
issue.
because you just get the extra health anyway. Like, what's the downside? I see no
True.
problem with this.
True. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe it's
no.
not the worst. PSA,
don't
guys,
know.
don't run Renathal in your Oaken Summons decks. Don't do that.
I have yet to see a big priest running it, but I've heard
that is
I've
the
heard
test.
rumors. Yeah, I've heard rumors in my Twitch chat that it does exist. I don't normally trust anything Twitch chat says, but I believe this one because as Meowth knows, like dirty or big priest players will stoop as low as a dirty rat for whatever reason.
I know that
Yeah,
all too well.
I was honestly fearful for a little bit. You know, like, is aggro dead because of the like? Like there was a moment where I was like, oh, is Renathal actually just too strong? You know, like on that first 24 hours, I was kind of playing with it. But it really doesn't seem like that. Like, it's so hard right now to tell what impact Renathal is going to have in Wild long term, just because it is the hot new thing, but it's the only hot new thing, right? Like, we have an expansion coming out, and so it'll be interesting to see what kind of play rate the card has once we get access to some of the cool cards that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, aside from the Dark Glare Warlock, every time I queue into an aggro deck with Prince Renathal in my deck, it feels like I just get steamrolled and the extra 10 health doesn't matter anyway because I brick on my draws so hard because I have those extra 10 cards. So I feel like the extra cards is actually hindering my ability into aggro in a lot of those matchups. But we'll see how it shakes out. It's probably somewhere in between.
Yeah. Besides, how can it kill aggro when aggro's already dead outside of Pirate Rogue? So there's that whole issue too. But that being said, I hope everybody's actually enjoying Renathal. Renathal's a sweet card. It's been a lot of fun playing myself. And so I like we talked about last week, I think it's just a greatly designed card, whether it's insanely powerful or not, just because everybody's excited about it, which is I think a really good thing.
No, I mean, as long as it's not too powerful, like, I think that it's, as long as you don't get it to the point of being ubiquitous and, you know, being a thing that everyone has to do all the time, it's great because the people that are really, really excited about it, they get to play it and they don't get to feel bad. So, you know, if it's not that good, but people want to play it, that's a huge win. And I think, like, obviously the hype, you know, the hype and everyone sort of being excited about it is already a huge win for Team 5. So.
All right. Speaking of hype, let's talk about the new expansion. So we are recording this on Saturday night. So we're going to be talking about all of the new cards that were revealed during the initial reveal stream that happened Friday between Kibler and Leo Robles from the Hearthstone dev team, as well as a couple cards that have gotten leaked today. So we do have 13 cards to talk to you guys about. And so the first one is going to be another one of these locations, brand new card type for those of you guys that haven't listened to last week's episode. Basically how these work, you play them for the 3 mana, and they take up a board slot on your board. You can have multiple of them if you so choose. And then you can use them once per turn. The UI very similar to a hero power where you click it and you drag it to whatever minion or thing you want to use it on. But you can use it as many times as the durability indicates, kind of like a weapon. But once you use it, you do have to wait a turn before you can use it again. So a little bit of a check there where you can't just use it repeatedly in the same turn or in back-to-back turns. So the first new one to talk about is Hedge Mage in Druid. So Hedge Mage is a 3-mana location with 2 durability that says trigger a friendly minion's death rattle. So I have absolutely no idea why this is a Druid card, but Death Rattle Druid synergy. How are we feeling about Hedge Mage as like a repeatable play dead for 3 mana?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that's exactly what it is. But like the benefit is that like with this in all locations is that you can set it up for a turn and it actually costs 0 mana when you do activate it. So you can like prepare your plays for future turns, but like mana is of no consequence to Druid, so that's a little bit less important. You know, I've been seeing a lot of talks about this plus Hadronox, but I have 2 concerns with that. First of all, it takes up a slot on board, and like that's a big bummer, just like off the bat. Second of all, like I don't know, like if the Hadronox dies when you've got this wall of taunts, then you'd like kind of waste the Hadronox anyway. So you're really only getting one death rattle off the Hadro anyway. So I don't know. I unless they release other death rattle synergies, I'm not really seeing a good home for this. And like, I don't know, Hadronox Druid just isn't very good because like we talked about, like aggro isn't strong aside from Pirate Rogue. So what are you doing with this card? I don't know. It looks fun, but I don't know that it has an immediate home right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like flipping through and seeing if anything really stands out for the Druid class. Obviously, like some of the recent cards are like Korak. Korak seems kind of interesting as a curve play. With this, I think that'll work, right? Like you just get an extra one. Also Greybow is another way that can create like a very, very sticky board. Giant Anacondra, that's one that it has like a very high impact death rattle and things like that. But I don't know. It does seem like it's an interesting piece, and like Roffle was talking about, being able to like set it up for multiple turns is very, very strong. And I really compare this to the Evolve one in Shaman as well, right? Where this is one where it's going to be hard to activate the minion, like some of the minion that you want to activate and use as synergy wise, and have these death rattle payoffs at the same time. And so being able to like preload the mana is really, really nice. The same way it is for Shaman, but I don't know. It's a very powerful effect. Play dead, broken at 1 mana, 3 of them, pretty good, but it's hard to see it coming together in WoW just yet.
Yeah, just 2 on this one.
Just
but,
2 of them.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, that's still okay though.
Yeah, I mean, Greybow was like the first thing that I thought about as well. And then also like Jungle Giants Druid. You Oaken summons into the 5/1, Death Rattle summon another 5/1, and then you use this on your 5/1, so you don't have to. It helps to complete the. I'm stretching. Outside of Greybow, I don't know if there's really a lot of synergy, which is it makes sense, right? Because Druid doesn't really do death battle stuff in the past, right? So we're not expecting some pretty.
Well, I mean, this is obviously a card where we have to see the rest of the set,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like this is the thing, so we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, this is potentially huge mana cheating, and I never want to count out huge mana cheating.
Sure.
Just in general.
No, I think it's got some potential. There's just not like anywhere for it immediately right now. And there could be a big legendary with a big death rattle that you want to run this with or something like that. But I think that, looking for like something a little bit better. Like I think another thing going back to Hadronox Druid, like Hadronox is not wanting for like additional layers of threats. That's something that it excels at in the late game. I don't think it really needs the help from this. I think you want something with a little bit earlier and more like proactive like impact than a 9 mana wall of taunts, because
Let's give it Void Caller. Let's just give it Void Caller. It'll be fine. Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what Giant Anaconda already is? But like
Yeah.
at a Druid level of mana cost, or realistically at like a fair level of mana cost. So like, yeah, I think we're okay not giving Druid Void Color.
Yeah. It does seem like one of those cards that has the potential to be really busted in this format, though, right? Where it's like a card completely designed for standard, like, and it hasn't really been a thing in Wild ever before, right? And so it just seems like there might be some synergy that we're not taking into account that just might happen to be kind of busted.
We were this close to trigger a friendly character's death rattle, and then twig on curve every time. This close.
Oof.
Why do you hate everybody in the WoW community, Core? Why do you guys say things like
look,
that?
it's not happening. I'm just putting it out there. It almost happened. It could have
You're
happened.
putting that energy out there, though, and we don't need that. Come on. But yeah, let us know down in the comments if you guys figure out some sweet stuff to do with Hedge Mage. So let's move on to our next location here. It's a priest location. One that got a lot of people excited initially until I think they like understood how locations worked. But this is a 3 mana, 3 durability location in priest that says give a minion +2/+1 and draw a card. So Hand of a Doll that you can do 3 times, but only once every other turn, right? So you can go 3, 5, 7 on this. It's Hand of a Doll is still a decent card. It sees play. Is repeatable Hand of a Doll good enough in priest?
I'm not gonna count out the repeatable Hand of a Doll anywhere. Like the problem is there's no real priest deck again that exists for this right now. I don't know if it's worth, because of the stat distribution, is like this worth in an inner fire type deck? I'm honestly not sure. One upside is that because locations aren't spells, this does allow you to run it in a Shadow Priest deck, but like Shadow Priest in Wild is quite a bit different than Shadow Priest in Standard, where you're just really trying to push, and like that every other turn kind of slows you down quite a bit in the Wild format, where by the time you're using the second effect of this, you really want to be bursting down the opponent with your Mind Blast and killing them. So seems like a good quality card. I'm blanking on where it fits, though, I think is my problem.
I think Inner Fire is like the natural thing that people are thinking about. I don't know. I would lean towards this card not being good enough for Wild. It's not really the card quality, it's just more about the speed of the card. Where, Wild is such a fast format in general that the fact that it is, you play it on curve, you get it on 3, all right, great. You're a mana down on a Hand of Adult. Like that's pretty bad. Like that's really bad in Wild, like in an aggressive deck that needs to be like pushing for lethals and pushing for very high tempo. But on turn 5, it's sort of mitigated a little bit. You gave up the 1 mana earlier, but you get a freebie, so it's kind of like breaking even. And then you get the actual payoff on 7. A lot of Wild games don't go to turn 7, and also, it's just really, really bad if it's like one of your last draws of the game, Like if it's close to being a top deck or like you're not getting full value out of it, this is really iffy. And so I don't know. It's not terrible if you are against like things like Cthulhu Druid or Free Shaman, or some of the slower Warlock decks. But I'm just really struggling to see it in a Fire Priest just because of how low tempo it is initially. But I think it's probably like a very, very strong card in Standard in particular, but I just worry about the speed of it in this format. As we've seen with cards like a lot of the dormant cards in the past, like Imprisoned, the Mage one, the 3 mana 4/5 dormant that dealt the AoE. Super, super strong in like Reno Mage and Standard, and never really quite caught on in Wild. And I just think it's because of the speed of the format.
Question though, like, maybe we're looking in the wrong place. Is this just like a reasonable card for a deck that does want to slow down the game, like a Big Priest or a Reno Priest? Like, are you just okay with 3 mana draw 3 delayed in those type of decks where you are already slowing the game down?
Well, I really worry about minion presence, right? Like in Big Priest, because you'd have to like stack this on 3, which is effectively a complete pass, and then I guess it's fine, like, by the time you do get your essence, but you're just dying if you're not doing anything, if you're not playing Palm Reading, if you're not playing Visions and Thrive and those kind of things. In Reno Priest as well, like, in theory, it's okay, but again, how much board presence does Reno Priest really have turn after turn?
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Well, yeah, if you're just ignoring the first half of it, though, you could use it to set up, like, Hysterias or that type of thing on your opponent's... Like, it doesn't have to be a friendly minion. And again, since you don't have to use it every other turn, there's no pressure to like press the button every time, so you can like pace it out to a point where you actually want or need the buff if you're already again slowing down the game. So I don't know. I'm not going to discount 3 mana draw 3 completely, but I think it's probably fringe playable even in those decks. And realistically, like with things like Illuminate, Palm Reading, Visions, Thrive, I don't think that Big Priest necessarily needs card draw or even necessarily wants it, because that's just honestly more opportunity to draw your minions in some cases. So like not always the best plan.
All right, so let's move into to some of the neutrals here. So the one neutral we got is really more a synergy piece for a lot of other cards that we're going to see, but they also made it a collectible, so similar to Piranha Swarmer, where it was generated off a lot of Shaman cards, but it was also a collectible card. So that's Volatile Skeleton, 2 mana, 2/2, Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So that could be a minion or their face. And so I guess instead of spending a lot of time on this, let's talk about some of the cards that generate Volatile Skeletons and care about them. And so they're primarily going to be in Mage. So let's start with the legendary minion. Let's talk about Kel'Thuzad the Inevitable. 8 mana, 6/8 legendary minion for Mage. Battlecry, resurrect your volatile skeletons. Any that can't fit onto the battlefield instantly explode. So the gameplay pattern here is you play a bunch of these other cards that we're going to talk about that summon skeletons, okay? And then you either get a board full of 2/2s that when they die deal a bunch of damage, or you immediately deal a bunch of damage, right? So either to the enemy minions or their face. So kind of a finisher for what seems like a Reno Mage or a Control Mage in Standard is might be what they're building towards here with this card.
It's very Dr. Boom, right? Like that's the easy comparison from the old Shuffle in the Bombs Dr. Boom. But I don't know. Like we have to see exactly what we're doing. But obviously it's a very, very powerful card as a finisher. But we need to make sure we know what the support is like, because I'm kind of looking at some of the support cards and we'll get to those, and they're not exciting me that much, I'll be real.
Yeah, it's it's a strong card, but like it's a deck building limitation, because you have to allocate X number of cards to actually generate the skeletons to make it worthwhile. So like, yeah, it's good to get that, because it like if enough skeletons die, Kel'Thuzad is build a board, clear a board, and deal damage to the opponent's face all in one card, which, like, yeah, obviously that's very strong, but like that's there's a lot of setup required in order to get to that point, which means running, as Corb said, maybe some suboptimal cards to get there, including, like, you might just be forced to run a 2-mana 2/2 that has a okay death rattle. So, you know, if we've seen all of the support so far, which I think we have, it seems like it's not going to be good. I'll throw this thing out.
I think this probably never stood a chance in Wild anyway.
No,
like, let's be real.
So
it's whatever.
Right, yeah. Because it's like anytime that there is an archetype that is centered around a single card, or a single card type, like we've seen this with Curse Warlock, we've seen this with a lot of things in the past, it's very hard for that to catch on in Wild, because Wild is built around synergistic mechanics that have existed for a long time, that were printed before these new cards and were generated and that kind of thing. So it's like, it's very hard for this thing to catch on, let alone like an 8-mana card. Like there's a lot of things going against this. One thing I'll say is going for it though is every single card, including the skeletons, is except for one, probably the strongest one. Never mind. No even mage. Never mind. Forget I said anything.
Mage. Unlucky.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about some of the support pieces here. I guess let's start with the boring one. Let's talk about Cold Case. 4 mana, summon 2/2/2 volatile skeletons, gain 4 armor, and it is a frost spell. So 4 mana, summon 4/4 worth of stats, gain 4, potentially deal 4. Delay. Well, not potentially. Deal 4 delay, right? It's like a really crappy demonic assault, is what it feels like, because like the Warlock deal 3, summon 2 Voidwalkers, because Voidwalkers are extremely relevant.
And so is like dealing the damage up front. Like that's the real important part of that card.
Yeah. So I mean, Cold Case. If we're going to assume that Skeleton Mage is not going to be a thing in Wild, is Cold Case on its own potentially playable?
No, Cold Case on its own is part of why, like, Skeleton Mage probably isn't playable in Wild.
Yeah. You got the same idea, Corb?
Yeah, I'm not too excited to talk about these ones, man.
All right. We'll go really quickly through it. Deathborn. Deathborn is a 6-mana frost spell. Deal 2 damage to all minions. Summon a 2/2 volatile skeleton for each killed. So I believe this actually was 5 mana, and then they nerfed it last second to 6, which is kind of unfortunate because it was probably maybe interesting at 5, and at 6 it's a really crappy Blizzard that already doesn't see any play. Because the big thing about Blizzard is it froze the opponent's board. The 2 damage didn't do anything. So yeah,
it's also symmetric damage, like Blizzard is not. So like it's dealing damage to your own board as well. So like,
that's a yikes, honestly. And then the location, it's a 3 mana, 3 durability location. Freeze a minion, summon a 2/2 volatile skeleton. Roffle kind of alluded to this already, where like it seems like it's the best out of the 3 support pieces, but it's a 3 mana Ray of Frost that summons a 2/2, and this just doesn't feel like it cuts it speed wise in Wild.
this is one in particular where like the turn off really makes it a lot worse, because if you freeze it the first turn, that's like it's still there. It's still there next turn. You want to freeze it again. So like, yeah, that's bit of a bummer.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about a new secret. Bringing back Secret Mage from the grave. Let's talk about Vengeful Visage. Hey, dude, I can be hopeful. Come on. It's a 3-mana secret. After an enemy minion attacks your hero, summon a copy of it to attack the enemy hero. So basically, you play this on turn 1, your opponent attacks you with Patches, and you get a copy of Patches. That dies to the enemy dagger.
Yeah, this gives me serious mirror entity vibes where it's just way too easy to play around by like attacking in with small minions, which you're already incentivized to do thanks to Flame Ward anyway. So like there's little to no payoff here. Secret Mage is not struggling because of a lack of quality secrets. In fact, it probably has too many high quality secrets to where like it really has to squeeze in that one or two like last secrets, and really like has to make a difficult decision there in terms of which one it wants to run. And this is not going to revive the archetype, because first of all, a secret is not necessarily what it needs right now unless it's another like rigged fair game quality secret, and also it's just kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's a secret that essentially requires you to be behind on board. And those are games where it's not really helping you recover board in the first place, right? Like they go face, you kind of get to go even. Like that's not really helping the issue. It's very play aroundable, like Roffle said. You know, it's just the fact that it's not proactive or anything like that. Just makes it, I don't know, it's just pretty bad for a deck like Secret Mage. It's like a defensive secret, but that doesn't really make sense. So
it can't even set up a tie, like, because if you are dead, it doesn't trigger, which I'm interested to see how it works with Ice Block, but even then, not sure that that's like you want, like, I don't know, because like I don't see how it's going to pay off even with a like Ice Block setup, because again, you're probably going to do 2 extra damage to your opponent's face as a result of that, and that doesn't feel worth.
Yeah. All right. Secret Mage still dumpster tier. And then last but not least, let's talk about Frozen Touch. This is a 2-mana deal 3 frost spell. So Frostbolt getting power crept. It lasted 8 years. It's finally been surpassed. 2-mana deal 3 with infuse 3. Add a Frozen Touch to your hand. So technically you can go infinite with the amount of Frostbolts in I don't know what deck could possibly do that cares about that, but Frozen Touch, it's new and improved Frostbolt. Does it really
doesn't
move?
freeze me?
Oh, yeah, I don't know that it is.
All right, we're restarting this. We're restarting this.
No,
It says frozen. I thought it
cut-
froze.
No,
We're restarting this section. Okay. And last but not least here, for Mage, we have a 2-mana deal 3 frost spell. So Frozen Touch, deal 3 damage, infuse 3, add a Frozen Touch to your hand. So technically, I guess you can go infinite with this card. How are we feeling about the newest 2-mana deal 3 on the block?
I mean, it's very clearly a power crept Frostbolt, right?
I hate you, Roffle.
No, this is a card that makes me very glad that Infuse is only friendly minions, because I don't see a deck that wants to run this card and minions in order to get more of this card. It's kind of cool in like a just like straight control Rita Mage, but even then you're not going to get like enough value off of that, because if you're not running Pocket Galaxy, you're running a lot of spells. So I don't know where this actually fits. I think it's a cool card. If there is a board-based Mage deck in the future, maybe there's some hopium there, but like Infuse 3 is a lot for a class that typically doesn't want to run cards. I think this is meant to be support for the skeleton archetype is really where it fits in. And as we already discussed, this may actually be the best card in that deck if it's repeatable 3 damage. But like again, that deck is, I mean, I don't know, probably dead on arrival in Wild if I had to guess, which feels kind of bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's intended to be skeleton mage support, just because it is pushing wide bodies for the mana cost, like Cold Case or even the Deathborn potentially. Um, yeah, I don't know, bad. Like, it's just so hard to figure out like a mage deck that's gonna be going wide on the board and things like that. I'm trying to think of like any real wild deck that would be playing this. Like, if you put this in any class, is there a single class that would be playing it? Potentially like pirate. Maybe there's like pirate roguey type stuff that
Yeah,
wants
cute
it
luck
because
maybe.
yeah, because like in theory it is like very flexible, it's repeatable. It's kind of like Dragonbane-y, but you can go face, and it's obviously easy like that, but it's kind of hard to really see where this could be fitting a home anywhere, let alone in Mage, a class that isn't very minion dependent.
I think Questline Hunter would love this. They generate enough
Oh
tokens with
yeah.
their spells that and just like 2 mana 3 damage is a card that they would love to run like vanilla.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's maybe the only place that this would actually exist.
All right.
Yeah, it's a spell that says deal damage. Of course, it would go in Questline Hunter. Like, why wouldn't I think of that? Yeah.
True. All right, and last but not least, we have four more cards to talk about. They are all Paladin cards. So for some reason, there are silver hands at at this castle where murder has taken place. And so we have three silver hand recruit cards here. Let's start with the legendary. Let's start with Stuart the Steward. What a great named card. It's a 3 mana 3/3. Death Rattle. Give the next silver hand recruit you summon +3/+3 and this Death Rattle. So, I mean, the obvious thing that pops to mind is Odd Paladin, right? Where then your hero power becomes a 2 mana summon 5/5 every turn, basically, assuming the minion always dies. Because the first recruit would get a 4/4, and then you summon a normal 1/1 recruit. Kind of seems insane. Being said, it is a legendary in Odd Paladin, and that would mean you're playing Odd Paladin, which is kind of completely fallen off the face of the earth. And this is a really, really strong card. It looks like we're going to get a lot of support for Silver Hands and Odd Paladin in general. And so definitely something to keep in mind when thinking about Odd Paladin, but specifically with Stuart the Steward. How are we feeling about him?
Honestly, not great. We've seen iterations of this card before. I think this is the best iteration of this card that we have seen, though. So I like that's good. It has some potential, but like the fragility of death rattles in our format could not be like more clear. Like Devolve exists, is run in every shaman deck just about. Yeah. So I don't think this is the card that's going to resurrect Odd Paladin. Odd Paladin isn't struggling because of a lack of ability to put stats on board. It's very good at that. Where it's struggling is like the other decks in the format. Like Free Shaman just decimates it. Any Warlock deck is just going to do the same. Like there's so many like it maybe if it can set up Righteous Protectors has a good matchup into Pirate Rogue, but like it's not fast
Pufferfish
enough.
exists. Yeah, Pufferfish is a thing.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Never mind. But like and then on top of that, I think one of the biggest issues that it has is it's like it's not quite fast enough to kill combo decks or druids to get out from under their armor. So before like the alignment, so it's just stuck in this like I don't know purgatory of wild where it's just like not. I don't know. It's not fast enough to beat the slow decks, and it's not like I don't know. It's not fast enough to keep up with the fast decks, and
Yeah,
I don't think Steward changes that in any way.
yeah, we call that Club Secret Mage, Roffle. That's where that hangs out.
That's no. I think that's about like where it is, but like I don't know if they're printing Silver Hand Recruit like we saw with Secret Mage. Like if they print enough support for it, a good resurgence could come. But at the same time, like card quality isn't the most important thing for Odd Paladin because it's just pressing that button all the time, and like doing just pressing the button every time is what has been outpaced. So, like it would need some really really high quality cards that like interact with that hero power in order to catch up more than anything. Like a tour guide in the past, that's what kind of brought it back, or a 1 mana conviction where it got a 1 mana fireball, which like that it needs that type of card quality in order to make a comeback, I think.
You know,
Yeah,
they could just revert conviction and solve a lot of those lethality issues.
Yeah, they could, but they didn't.
I hate
Anyway,
you.
so
Come on.
yeah, Stuart's so slow. Like, I'm not even thinking about an odd paladin as much as we're kind of getting some other Silverhand recruit. There are some like just a normal Silverhand recruit deck that I'm probably more optimistic about its potential. Because like Roffle said, the button has just been outpaced, right? Like that's the big issue, is that the payoff of the whole odd mechanic just isn't really worth it in current Wild Hearthstone because it's so slow. And yeah, Stuart is also very, very slow in general, right? Like even like 3 mana 3/3 up front, not good. But then like the payoff is from the next minion that you summon, so like it's not even just given to a random recruit that's already on board. It's the next one you summon, so that is also slow, because it doesn't get to attack or anything. So unless you have like Broomstick to immediately start paying off, like Broomstick is great, right? If you have it and then you can get it again the next turn, but just because it is so slow, I really, really don't see this working out too great, in general.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning towards a non-odd version as well. Like, just instead of paying 2 mana for 2 dudes, just pay 1 mana for 1 dude. Like, add them to your hand and generate them in other ways. Like, I think that that's where the archetype needs to go in order to make up some ground. Plus, the 4 mana card from a previous set, the Balloon Vendor, is like bonkers. So, like, if you can find a way to run that card in your deck, seems good.
I thought you were going to talk about Call to Arms, because I'm like, that is also another good 4 mana card.
Well, yeah, you've got a good point there. That is a good 4 mana card, but like.
All right, you guys are making me a little bit sad. Let's talk about.
I think there's still hopium in Paladin in this set. Like it's just not with Stuart.
That's fair.
Or it's not with Odd Pally. Yeah.
Come on, just give me back conviction, and we can talk about any Paladin decks that you guys want. Come on. Sinful Sous Chef, 1 mana 2/1, Death Rattle, add 2 Silverhand recruits to your hand. So 1 mana 2/1, Death Rattle, add 2 1/1s to your hand. That synergize ideally with the rest of your deck. It feels like what's the 2 mana 1/1? Drygulch Jailer, which was Death Rattle, add 3 Silverhand recruits, but it cost 2 mana instead of 1, and it was a 1/1.
It's also Acorn Bearer. There's another one.
Oh, that's actually a card. Yeah, you're right. Never really saw play, right? Not even in Beast Druid. So I kind of forgot that card existed. But this has a home with all the other recruits. So
yeah, I think like Silverhand recruits are much more premium than random 1 mana beasts. Just because of like the beast payoffs aren't probably as they're like, because the Silverhand recruits are much more specific, they tend to be a lot stronger, right? In general. And you just kind of have a lot more natural synergy with things like Muster and Lost of the Jungle that you can kind of really build around it. But I love this card. Like, I absolutely adore this. I remember when we did the, the core set stuff was initially announced. Jailer was a card that I was hoping was kind of added to the core. It wasn't quite strong enough, I thought. And, this is just like an upgraded version. We've kind of seen it before with Acorn, like we're talking about. But I love it, whether it's in, Handbuff Paladin. Like, I know 1/1s are boring, but, we've seen, like, first day of school before. Like, there's nothing wrong with us adding a couple resources to hand. I think it's good. It helps out Quest Paladin. Obviously, the Silverhand recruit stuff is what I'm most excited about for this. But, it's also really good off Call to Arms, right? Like, it's a 1-drop that has Silverhand recruit synergy that isn't just awful off the Call to Arms. So, still get that payoff. So, I really, really love this card in general. I think it's so flexible, and I'm hoping that it can kind of help out a number of Paladin archetypes.
I think it can. I actually misread this card at the beginning, and I thought it was a Battle Cry, which is much better for hand buff, but a lot worse for your Call to Arms deck. I think that maybe makes the card better just because Call to Arms is so good, though, because like you'll kind of just settle for the Death Rattle in hand buff anyway. I think just because that adds cards to hand. Something that possibly being overlooked about this card is that like the Silverhand recruits are Paladin cards, so that makes your Light Ray better. That makes also your elitist snob better, which is something that we have yet to discuss. So like the fact that it's adding cards to your hand is great, but the fact that it's adding Paladin cards to your hand, as well as the Silverhand recruits, like the amount of synergies that you can interact with this singular card is pretty silly. So it's I think that this is a very high quality card in the set, and definitely has some potential. Whether it's Battle Cry or Death Rattle, as it apparently is. But again, Death Rattle makes it much better off of Call to Arms, which is pretty good if you're building that like not odd dude paladin.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the last dude support piece that we've seen so far. Buffet Begin. This is a 4-mana 2/4 battle cry. Summon 2 Silverhand recruits. So it's a 4-mana 4/6 at its base. It also has Infuse 3. So if 3 friendly minions have died while this is in your hand, you are going to be summoning 2 Silverhand recruits with +2 attack and Divine Shield. So you're going to be summoning 2 3/1 Divine Shield minions alongside Buffet Begin. So that's what's the math on that? 6. An 8/6 worth of stats for 4 mana. Do we like this better than some of the other 4-cost options that we have in Stegadon and the Balloon Boy that gives all your recruits +1 attack and Divine Shield? How are we feeling about this?
I think it's probably somewhere in between the two, if I had to guess, because like Balloon Merchant is a little bit more reliable, as also better upfront stats, which make a bit of a difference. You're more in control of it, but it gives you a little bit less. This does require minions to die, which is something that naturally is going to happen with like Silverhand recruits, because they're fairly fragile no matter how much you buff them. But it like has to be in your hand when that happens. So like you need to draw it, hold it, and set up that turn. But I don't know, if you're running Call to Arms in that deck, like you're gonna have some minions die, because like that's what happens when you play Call to Arms, especially like Sinful Sous Chef wants to die anyway. So like I think that there is some potential for this. I'm always kind of I don't know, unimpressed with Stegadon unless I already have good numbers on my minions and then I get to give them Wind Fury, which it's like, well, that's such a narrow case and I'm probably already ahead and winning that game anyway, so is it really useful? I really like Balloon Merchant though, and this is kind of giving me similar vibes, so I think it's maybe just a step or two behind a Balloon Merchant, which is, I think a valid reason to move away from Odd Paladin if you can get more cards of that quality in a dude package.
Yeah, I like it. I totally agree with Roffle that I think Stegadon is like weaker, and so this is kind of like just a step up from that. I do agree that it's worse than Balloon Merchant, but like Balloon is obviously a payoff when you're already ahead. This is a bit more like build your board, like after you've been AOE cleared for the 17th time as your dude paladin. You kind of just get to reload with a couple Scarlet. What are they called? Scarlet Crusaders? The three
Silverhand recruits. Oh yeah, Scarlet Crusaders. But I also I just realized I completely overlooked the summon 2 Silverhand recruits. Like that, yeah. No, this card is much better than I was giving it credit for, and it is nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's very close between like this and Merchant. I think Merchant's slightly better, but that's the fact that it is like build a board, right? Like I expect this infused in a dude paladin deck to just always be active, like or at least the vast majority of the time. And so, yeah, I think this is a really nice payoff, and this is kind of like part of why I'm excited potentially about a non-odd Silverhand recruit deck.
Yep. I mean, how are we feeling about the floor of the card though? You're obviously not super happy. I think even if you're expecting it to always be infused, like is the floor still good enough for you to want to run it? Right? Like it's a 4-mana 4/6 with 3 butters.
No, I mean, it's fine. The first one, like if you have 2 in hand, you just jam the first one and it sets up the second one. I think. I think it's, you're not happy about it, but I think it's fine. And I think that I don't know. It's almost like when you have it infused, it's almost like a 3rd and 4th copy of Call to Arms, right? Like it's not pulling the cards from your deck, but it's pulling cards of that quality to your into play. And like, yeah, I'm much higher on this card, and I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm again like I really like the card, but I'm not excited about the floor. Like we've seen that card before, Grim Necromancer. That might be one that people forget. It's actually the core set, 4-mana 2/4 summon 2 1/1 skeletons, and that card's awful. Now, obviously, Silverhand recruits are better than random skeletons in a Silverhand recruit deck, but I can just tell you that if this is not infused, it's going to be really bad in Wild. But my optimism is that you're playing Dude Paladin and it's going to be infused like a lot of the time just because how wide you're naturally going.
Right.
onto the board and things like that. So again, I really, really like it. It's just, I want it to be, like it's like a corrupted card that's not corrupted. I want it to be corrupted. I want this to be infused.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Another thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that this just curves perfectly with Muster for Battle, which is one of the best cards in the history of Hearthstone. So
Also, Quartermaster. Like, really hard to remove maybe a couple of the Divine Shield boys, and all of a sudden they're 5/3 Divine Shields. Like, that's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify for all of you guys listening, it's only the 2 minions that are being summoned by this card are getting the +2 attack and Divine Shield. It's not giving it to all of the recruits that you already had on the board when you play this, even if it is infused. So just a little bit of a clarification there. So yeah, I mean, the one that people are supposed to be excited about, this legendary, doesn't seem like the one that you guys are excited about, but I mean, it does look like the recruit synergy it is shaping up to be kind of exciting. And
I would love it, by the way, if there was like a really good Silverhand recruit deck. I think it's like one of the core like fantasies of Hearthstone, like the the control warrior, the face hunter. For me, the Silverhand recruit paladin deck has always been like a bit of those the white whale. And there has only been a couple times in Hearthstone history where we've really had it work. And so I would absolutely adore it if that kind of archetype was able to come to fruition.
yeah, I mean, we had Dude Paladin for like 3 months before Baku came out, and then everybody was just like, okay, well, Baku Hero Power is broken, and maybe it was more than 3 months because I remember taking it to the Wild Open. So
it was much more than 3 months. This is like Dude Paladin is like one of the foundational wild decks. Like it's up there. There's nothing more nostalgic in the wild format than like a battle between Dude Paladin and Pirate Warrior with like Fiery War Axe at 2 mana. Like that is my what introduced me to the format. And so like yeah, I'm always kind of rooting for it as well. Obviously like Baku kind of shaped it, but it's also been like one of those decks where everybody estimates it. Like it's both odd and even Paladin are commonly and criminally underplayed throughout the history of Hearthstone in terms of their power level. So I don't know, maybe we can get a truly broken one that people will actually recognize as broken.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I get an excuse to play Tarim again, and like even if Tarim's not good, I'm shoving Tarim in this deck because God, I love that card. And it was insane to me how it was like it was the most busted legendary that everybody talked about, and then Baku came out and nobody has ever seen Tarim ever since, which is a little sad to me. So even if this deck doesn't end up being super good, I'm excited about it. You guys have hyped me up a little bit about this, and when it doesn't end up being good, I'm gonna blame you guys and be sad about blame you guys for my depression, but it'll be something I'll try out for sure. All right, last but not least, we have one more Paladin card here. Let's talk about Elitist Snob. It's a 5-mana 3/4 battle cry. For each Paladin card in your hand, randomly gain Divine Shield, Lifesteal, Rush, or Taunt. So, Ziliax, for Paladin, for pure Paladin archetypes, like Roffle mentioned, dudes are technically Paladin cards. And so, between this and Light Ray, you have a lot of incentive now to run good Paladin cards and to play Paladin. I think they did mention, I saw a thread from Cora that they have moved away from the if your deck has no Paladin cards because it disincentivized you from playing a lot of the super sweet legendaries and cards that they had printed, stuff like Varian. That's like really only sees play in Paladin anyways. Like you wouldn't be able to play that in a pure Paladin deck. So they're trending more towards cards like this and Light Ray, which I'm actually pretty excited about because I think it makes it a lot more playable in our format. But yes, now you can run 2 copies of Ziliax, maybe 3 if you really want to run OG Ziliax itself in Paladin. How are we feeling about this in just a whole host of Paladin archetypes? I'm thinking hand buff Paladin, Reno Paladin, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you should never be dismissive of like a Ziliax type card like this, but like at the same time, when was the last time we saw Ziliax in a Hearthstone game? Like, I know it's 5 mana. Like that's a lot of mana. He's got a bigger caboose. He also accepts like hand buffs a little bit better, but he's still 5 mana. So unless you're building like a really, really anti-aggro hand buff Paladin, where you're just like relying on catacomb guards, this, and maybe even like, I don't know, the vicious scale hide, just going all in on that that lifesteal to really ruin the day of aggro, which noble cause, fine, go for it. You're maybe not going to have a great time into some of the fast combo decks, but maybe there's a deck there. I like card quality is absolutely there. I think, like you said, it pairs really well with a card like Light Ray, which certainly has long-term potential in our format, especially if this is the direction that they're taking Paladin. And like you, I think it's great. Like, can you imagine a world where like the previous iterations of what we knew as pure Paladin existed, and like at the same time as Renathal? Like that just feels bad. That like if that's your deck, especially if you're a standard gamer, you can't play the new cool thing because like you're stuck with only Paladin cards. So like I like the direction that they're taking it, and if like they continue iterating on this, I think that there's some potential for that type of archetype. And to be quite honest, like the payoffs in Wild at least are pretty poor for only running Paladin cards. So like those cards are just kind of dead. Yeah, I don't know. I could see this in a Reno Paladin maybe, but at the same time you're running a lot of neutral cards in that deck that make it hard to reliably activate. I could see it in a hand buff Paladin maybe, but like it still feels kind of slow in that deck. And like again, it goes back to the question: when was the last time we saw Ziliax? It's been a while.
Yeah, I'd have to do a double check of just like what the class card count in Reno Paladin. It's kind of hard to do it off the top of my head. I haven't really played a lot of that archetype in a while. But maybe, I can see it there. And yeah, Hand Buff Paladin, just how worth is that extra 2 health? It's probably pretty significant, right? Like making it maybe a double trade or something like that, which could happen a lot of the time, feels like a big deal. So I can definitely see it, but I don't know. I know that it was leaked or initially as a 4/4, then they nerfed it very late in development. If this is a 4/4, I'd be much more excited about it. Obviously, I would think it would be an absolute standout card in any of those Paladin decks. But as a 3/4, I'm just a little skeptical, just because like that one attack mightn't sound like a lot, but that one attack scales super hard with the rush and the lifesteal in particular, so it can be kind of a big deal.
And with the Divine Shield, you're essentially doubling it as well.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
In most cases. So yeah, it's a big deal.
It is something that you get to run 2 copies of. So you get 2 Ziliaxes instead of just 1. Which, like, when Ziliax was good, it's like, man, I wish I had more of these cards. And now you get 2. I'm really desperate here. I think the only place that it might see play is Hand Buff Paladin. If I had to put money on it. I hesitate to bring up something like Libram Paladin because that's a deck that just like doesn't work. But between like this and Light Ray, and it may be taking it a much more pure Paladin route. Maybe you're seeing something with stuff like Devout Pupil and things like that. But like you guys said, do we
think the elitist snob wants to mingle with the grimy goons though? I don't know. It feels like there might be some anti-synergy though.
Does it seem like that though?
But like,
just thematically,
would he hang out?
Thematic,
yeah. Would he hang out with them? I don't know. I don't know if he wants their help as much.
I feel like he would turn his nose up, like he's doing in the art.
Yeah.
So he wants to get out of hand as fast as possible, and I'm trying to take this back to the card. I like the card. Like you guys you've mentioned a lot of really good points as to maybe why it's not good enough, but I love Ziliax. I love Paladin. I'm gonna run 2 copies of Paladin Ziliax and see just how bad it is, and let you know very quickly that it probably is super bad. So
just a quick update. I did a quick count of Reno Paladin, and it looks like just about half the cards are neutral. So
that'll have to change if you want to play this. Yeah, you'd have to run a lot more.
Right. So yeah, you would definitely want a higher density of Paladin cards to get more real. Otherwise, you could just run a Ziliax. and again, I repeat, people are already not running Ziliax. So,
well, Ziliax dies to cannon shots. This doesn't die to just one cannon
shot.
Okay.
No, the health does matter, especially since like after the Divine Shield is broken on the backswing with the taunt. Like it makes a difference. It is better than Ziliax if you can get everything active, but you're also sacrificing the like consistency and like I don't know constitution of your deck in order to make this active. So like there's a downside to that as well.
We'll see. A lot of cards I feel like today for Paladin are just like maybe it's just me where we're gonna shove it into decks, see how good they are before I think we come to a final. I guess that's for every card, right? Just
no, I think it's in particular for these Paladin cards because we don't know how fragile the Death Rattle is going to be on Stuart. We don't know how easy it is to activate the Buffet Biggin, and we don't know how easy it is to reliably activate all of the components to elitist snob. So like a lot of these cards are kind of wait and see things, like similar to how Light Ray was, and it's very hard to, especially with a new keyword like infuse, it's really hard to predict how these are going to play until you play them. I think that the card quality for each of these is higher than we've seen for Mage, for example. So I think that like Paladin is definitely got to step up there.
Yeah. All right. So lots of sweet cards that we've seen so far, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Reveal season is just starting. I know somebody here might have some stuff to reveal soon. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Make sure you guys are all subbed to Corb's YouTube channel for his card reveal. How excited are you?
To make a YouTube video? Oh, not that excited me out. But no, do a card reveal? No, very, very hype. Came as a big surprise. But yeah, they just said, would you like to? And I'm like, hell yeah, I would like to. Yep. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think you're one of the first wild creators to get it like a card reveal. I can't.
It seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of another wild exclusive creator that's got one. So big congrats to that, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm expecting a hilarious skit at the beginning with Corb cosplaying as Sherlock Holmes, and I refuse to be let down. So please make that happen.
Yeah, see, now you can't do anything
this is why
else.
This is why the video is very scary, because like I have to go to that bar, right? Like I have to send it that way. Yeah. I don't know. Oh my god.
All right, so make sure you guys are all subbed to Corb's YouTube channel so that you get notified when that card reveal goes live. And I guess Roffle, you should probably sell your content too, just so people can find you reacting to Corb's card reveal.
There we go. That's what I'll be sure to do. Yeah, you can find me at on YouTube at Roffle or on Twitch at the same username.
Yeah, I guess Corb, you can also sell all your other stuff, if you want to.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks. When I'm not going to be cosplaying as Sherlock Holmes at Corbettgames on YouTube, you can always find me at Corbettgames on Twitter or Corbett on Twitch.
You guys can find me at Get Me Out on all those platforms as well. Excited for reveal season to kick off officially, and excited to talk about all these cards with these guys. And hope to see you guys again back here, same place, same time next week. Later.